Work through adversity, stay on the grind. Elevate, elevate, this is our time. Elevate, elevate.
Good morning, folks. Hope you're doing well on this beautiful Wednesday morning. Oh, it's the Elevate Report where we're talking politics in this country, the good, the bad, and the ugly. Oh, yes, we're going to be talking about a lot this morning. We had the announcement yesterday, Mr. David McGinty saying, whoa, we're launching this new space thing. We're doing space stuff. We're doing space stuff here in Nova Scotia. $200 million worth of funding. Making that announcement, everyone's excited, and they brought up the issue with the Kuwait base, and he was like, it's Poilievre's fault. So we'll be talking about that. Doug Ford doing Doug Ford things, of course, saying, well, I want to be corrupt. Why does Carney get to be corrupt? Why does everyone else get to be? Why do I get left out on this? We'll be talking about that. And as well, we're going to be talking about what UK and France and other NATO nations taking public stances now against Donald Trump and the war in Iran. And, oh man, there's a lot of nitty gritty to get into in a lot of this, a lot of nuance to discuss and chat about. And I think it's a great day to discuss all this because, man, these stories they're outrageous. I'll be honest. These stories are outrageous. We're going to get into we're not just going to hit surface level, because a lot of you who definitely follow the news know about these stories already. But there's an underbelly to a lot of them that I want to dig into that really do need to be addressed. And I want to talk about them because it is just so hilarious to watch what is currently transpiring. And I know some of you may have caught my short that I released this morning on YouTube Shorts today, where I said, guess what? I want to break something to you folks, specifically the conservative voters. Liberal voters, Carney supporters, do not care. They do not care about Carney's conflicts of interest. They just don't care. They don't care. That they do care about is their pocketbooks. They do care about making a living. They do care about putting food on their table. Those are things that are going to get significantly worse. And that's the thing, is once those things get worse, then the conflicts of interest all of a sudden start mattering. So we're going to be discussing this and so much more. Welcome to the Elevate Report. I'm your host, Josh. If you're getting value from today's episode, take the time to like, share, and subscribe to help us to grow. It helps us to get to new audiences. And it helps people see there's something different than what the mainstream media has to offer. The chat, you're looking beautiful this morning. You're looking just marvelous. You're looking marvelous. Super chats are already flowing in this morning on this beautiful, beautiful day. And we are going to we'll hit a couple of them here. Actually, let's pull this in a little bit so I can see you guys. Jessica says Maya will soon have surgery to remove drain from her brain. This is a third surgery. She's such a tough young lady. Yes, absolutely. Jessica also follows that up with, when are all the interviews coming? And I'll say this. Good question. I've definitely fallen short. I literally have a Rolodex of people I need to contact, and I just have not been following up, and I need to. It's just been crazy over here, but I need to follow up on that. Thank you for the challenge and call out there, Jessica. Bandit249 says, morning from Michigan. Hump day. It is a hump day. Let's get after it. And Pokechuck3 I also saw in the general chat people saying that, hey, Josh, you're going to need to speak up. Are you kidding me right now? Are you kidding me right now? YouTube is glitching out on me, so I hope that you guys caught at least some of that. Holy smokes. I saw in the general chat that people are in the dump truck saying, Josh, you need to speak up. I know there's some boys out on the boats today getting ready, preparing for potential season coming up. So there's a lot. People are in a wide variety of different pockets of the world. And I think that has been the most humbling moment for me doing this show, is talking to you individuals, especially those who tune in the live stream. And when you tell me where you're listening from, it is truthfully psychotic to me. Completely honest. When I hear people saying, no, I got you on the road, I'm on the highway taking across in this big truck, love listening to you. I've talked to gentlemen who have been in during lobster fishing season, got me going on the boat, which is psychotic. There's people in a wide variety of different areas around the country who's saying, Josh, we love your work. We have you on when I'm doing this. I have you on when you're doing that. You guys are awesome. So here we go. Let's see what's going on here, folks. I'm hearing that there are issues with the audio. Let's see what's happening here. So looks like we got the audio all working. Audio is all good to go here. There are some, man, YouTube's been so cracked lately. I'll be straight with you about that. YouTube's been a mess, but we got the sound back. We're good to go. And you guys are all fantastic. Let's get into our first story, shall we? Baby, we did it. Defense Minister David McGuinty taking questions in Nova Scotia, baby, here in my home province. $200 million, baby. $200 million. Let's get after it. McGuinty was asked this question about, well, the lack of transparency from this government. And guess what? It always comes back to the official opposition. Always does. Always does. The party that's not in power all of a sudden has a say in the lack of transparency of this government. Man, these people know no bounds, do they?
The Conservatives are accusing your government of being too secretive for not notifying the public that the Canada base camp at the Kuwait Air Base was apparently struck by a missile. What's your response to the Conservatives' argument that our allies are openly disclosing such information while in daily briefings, actually, while we would not, your government would not be open to do so?
Yeah. With all due respect to my colleagues in the Conservative Party, we will take our lead from the operational experts in the Canadian Armed Forces, who have a policy of being very careful about the security of our Canadian Armed Forces on the ground. I think it's up to the Conservative Party to explain why they might want to pursue information or reveal information that might compromise that security. And dare I go one step further, I think if Mr. Poilievre had the requisite security clearance, he might get a briefing that would indicate otherwise, and he might actually change his perspective.
So, Liberal government asked why they're not being open more with what is currently happening with a variety of different things, specifically the issue of what's going on with our armed forces. And they said, well, if you got the top security clearance, you would find out why we can't share these things with you. I'm curious of what is the security issue around our base getting, or a base with Canadian military at it getting blown up, why that can't be shared. I understand you can't share it the day or two after it happens, but you didn't share it the week after. I think you shared it almost 2 weeks after, when you were prompted by media to talk about it. Telling. Very telling, isn't it? So to turn this around saying, well, if you just got your top security clearance, what has been, okay, we're going over this time. This has been, the Liberals are pulling this one back out, which is very telling to me. So let's look at everything that's going on right now. Look at the information war that's happening above your heads at the moment. What have you been seeing in the media? Liberals hitting just top of the top numbers. Carney, essentially what they're saying is Carney is the most popular prime minister in Canadian history, is what they're saying with all of these numbers. It's all been pumping up the tires of the Liberals because of all the things they're doing. Apparently they're doing things. It's been all Liberals all the time. And this is why I'll pull this up just for kicks and giggles. So I've personally been finding a lot of these polls humorous and hilarious, to the point I just started trolling on X because I just felt like I needed to. So This is what I said yesterday, folks. This is what I said yesterday. I think Mark Carney is going to win 100% of the vote and secure all 343 seats in the House. I just think it's going to happen. I just think it's going to. Based on what I'm seeing and what I'm hearing, this is what I believe now. That Supreme Leader Mark Carney is going to win 100% of the vote and secure 343 seats. Baby! That's what we're going to be getting. We're charting in wild territory where Mark Carney is just going to take over everything because he's just so dang popular. That's what I've gathered. That's what I've gathered. Naturally, this post got the people going. And I followed that up, though. I followed it up with another post. I said this. I saw this article come up. It said, Liberals seeing record high support on first anniversary of Carney becoming PM. We're still wanting to know what it was, what he's been doing. Curious what it is. So I took that article and I was like, whoa, record high support on his first anniversary after everything he's done this year, which, want to give you a bit of a heads up, it's next to nothing. But apparently, great first year, opening year, record high support for Mark Carney. So I said this. I retract my earlier statement. Based on this article, I now believe Carney will win 500 seats in the House of Commons. And that's just kind of where I'm at and what I'm feeling at this present time is I'm just seeing just all of the things that are just flooding the system from an information perspective right now. Do I think the Conservatives are beating the Liberals right now in the polls? No. Do I think the Liberals have as big of a lead as they're telling us? Also, no. I don't think that's happening. I do think, though, there's a significant, as I've been seeing from other polls and data, that there's just this middle ground. People who are unsure, don't know what's going on. And that middle ground, as I've said, is expanding. And that's a great opportunity for the Conservatives to jump in and try to garner that support. A lot of heavy lifting is ahead, but it's there to be done. But do not for 1 second believe the narrative that's being put out right now. That Carney's just undefeated, unstoppable, can't do nothing to deal with him. He's just the best politician, the best prime minister we've ever seen. My friends, we are getting Joe Biden right now, right to your faces. Remember, in the U.S., they did this with Joe Biden. Greatest results in an election, highest vote totals. And yet what we saw on TV and what was happening with his cognitive decline, there was next to nothing happening in policy. People were getting frustrated with what was happening with the economy. And you were constantly being told that he was the best president you've ever seen in your life. That is now happening to us up here. The only difference is Mark Carney is all there. And so he gets to play the part a little bit better so people fall for it more easily. But my friends, this is what is being shoved down your throats right now by the media, is that this is the best prime minister we've ever seen. Hope it feels good. Hope it feels good. I'm happy to be living during this time of our most popular prime minister, who is garnering support via floor crossings. And all those floor crossings also didn't happen to, I don't know, have anything to do with ideology. All had to do with stuff they received by being a part of the governing party. Yeah, that tells me he's the most popular prime minister ever. So let's get back into the NSI cop security clearance for a second here. So you had this issue. So the Conservatives found out about what's going on, what happened with the base, and they started talking about it, and it came out. I think it came out in committee. And they've been discussing it and saying, why hasn't the prime minister talked about this yet? And then the prime minister was forced to have to talk about it. And the response is, okay, why do you keep pushing for less transparency as a government? And the response is, well, Pierre Poilievre didn't get his security clearance. So right now, there's 2 MPs in the Conservative Party who have the top security clearance. And that would be Alex Ruff of Bruce Grey Owen Sound. And that would be Rob Morrison, who's Columbia Kootenay, Southern Rockies. And then there's also the Honorable Claude Kerrigan, a senator from Quebec. Those are the three individuals linked to the party who have access, who have the top security clearance, who get all the information. Did you hear anything from them after everything that happened March 1st, March 2nd? Did you hear anything from those individuals? Did you see them in the media? Did you see them talking? No? Oh, is it because they're not allowed to talk about it? Could it be that they are bound by law to not discuss what they've seen? Wow. Interesting how they are very quiet, aren't they? So what you're seeing, my friends, is all one big ploy to shut Poilievre up. That's all it is. So when I see articles like we saw here, and the constant information of how popular Mark Carney is, how popular the Liberal Party is, and then I'm seeing the Liberal Party come out and saying, Poilievre needs to get a security clearance. Like popping off on that. Bruce Fanjoy, who, Carleton MP, keeps pushing this stupid petition to have, actually, let's just read it out. Over 40,000 people have already signed the petition requiring all federal party leaders to seek and maintain top security clearance. How many will it take to convince the lone leader who refuses? And they keep pushing this. Multiple MPs in the Liberal Party are pushing the stupid petition, pushing the security clearance. And they keep bringing it up. They keep bringing it back to that. And this is it's old. Like, this has been going on since 2023, 2022? They've been trying to push this. It's old. It's really old. And I love what Mousson Lou said here. Okay, so if 40,000 people sign a petition to remove Mark Carney as PM, would that be accepted? It's useless. It's a stupid rhetoric. It's stupid rhetoric, stupid narrative. But I also love what Jasmine Lane said too. Bruce, stop trying to make fetch happen. It's not going to happen. Shout out Mean Girls. They so badly want him to be quiet. And this is not the behavior of a government that is actually secure in their leadership. This is the actions of a government who needs a win. When you're stealing political strategy from the failed Trudeau government, the 44th Parliament, and now using it now in the 45th Parliament to muzzle your opponent, that does not indicate to me that you are secure in your leadership, that you're secure in your lead, that it's as secure as what the media is trying to tell us it is. This is behavior that is desperate. This is desperate behavior. Bruce Fanjoy keeps pushing this nonsense. If Pierre Poilievre refuses to raise his security to the level of his responsibilities, Canadians will lower his responsibility to the level of his security. They are going all out trying to just shut up Poilievre and boot him out. And you have to ask why. If you are so in the lead, as the polls say, you're doing so great, why lower yourself to this that is such a nothing burger on so many levels? Why do you keep doing this? Maybe the lead is not as comfortable as we're being led to believe. I'm actually going to bump over here because I think this is an important point. Because Nick Nanos popped on CTV to talk about the polls and where Mark Carney's been at and what's been happening. And he mentioned something here. We're going to watch a minute and a half here. But he mentioned something in the last 15 seconds that really caught my ear, and it should catch your ear too. But the overall context of the conversation, I think, is really important to play it all through. But listen to Nick Nanos here. Listen to what he has to say.
And whether it's Mark Carney or someone around Mark Carney or a cabinet minister, to hope that happens. And the other thing is, what we don't know is that, yes, the Liberals are doing very well. How much runway do they have? How long are Canadians going to give, the Carney government the benefit of the doubt? until the economy starts improving, till job prospects get better, till a new major project occurs. So it's a bit of a sweet spot for the Liberals because they're right in between. They're still in power only for a certain period of time, and they still haven't delivered on a lot of the things that they're focused on.
So that 47% number, just to bring it back to where we started, how much of the available sort of voter coalition that they have to them have they captured at this point, and how much more is actually available to them?
Oh, well, I can't, I'm not going to say that the Liberals can't do better because in this environment, I don't know.
Right.
But, one of the things that the Liberals have to think about is that they're on a high. And even if we talk about a potential election, we have to remember that once an election happens, Vashi, we all know that everything resets, and Pierre Poilievre and Mark Carney will have equal coverage. Right now, they don't have equal coverage. It's the Mark Carney show every day, every hour, in all of the news outlets, just because of the frenetic pace that he's kind of running this government at. And so I think for the Conservatives, I don't think they should really panic yet, because once they get more profile, the numbers, it's like the stock market, there'll be like a technical correction for the Liberals. But at 47, that's a pretty good number.
So you heard it there. Canadians are going to be wondering very soon what's going on, especially as these job numbers keep rolling in. Carney's running out of time of goodwill from his voters. And he addresses it here in a very interesting fashion, I would say. Is that right now, there's no equal coverage. And rightfully so. The governing party should get a lot of the media coverage. But keep this in mind. And this is what happened during the election. This is what screwed over the Conservatives too. Is Mark Carney was constantly in front of the public. Constantly. And typically the person who's in front of the cameras is one who's going to be popular. If you remember actually some of the polls that came up when Mark Carney first announced that he was going to be running for the Liberal leadership race, he was down like 15%. Because no one knew who he was. Wasn't in front of cameras, didn't know what he was about. No one knew who he was. And as he got in front of cameras more and started peddling what he was peddling, people started getting more on board with it. And to the Conservatives' fault, unfortunately, in this situation, is Poilievre recoiled from media and getting in front of cameras. And so Carney got this head start on him in the last election because he was just in front of people more. And we're seeing it more here. And this is why you're seeing such another reason why you're seeing such a drastic change in polling is because people keep seeing Carney. They don't see much of Poilievre. They keep seeing Carney. And anytime Poilievre comes up, it's because, it's in a negative light. So, of course, the polling's going to be skewed. And this is why I'm saying Poilievre is facing a very uphill battle because, yes, let's be honest. I know I'm Mr. I cannot stand excuses, and I will never stand by them. But we can acknowledge the reality that we're being presented. That Poilievre and the Conservative Party are given an unfair deal by the media. They are. They are facing a very skewed playing surface. It's not a fair playing surface. Liberals get all these weapons. Conservatives only get a few of them. And they still have to figure out a way to win. Kind of like Luke Skywalker in The Return of the Jedi being thrown into that dungeon with this huge big beast in there, and he ends up killing him with a rock or whatever it was. It's been so long since I've watched it, but it's something along those lines. The thing is, it's possible to win, and you're going to have to figure out a way to win. But Nick Nanos brought up a very important point. There's a reason why these polls are going the way they are. And it's because Mark Carney's out in front of the cameras and people know him. That's it. And anytime Poilievre pops up, it's because the media's covering something negative about him. So that's why it's on Poilievre to kind of beat the system, get around it, and show that he's the legitimate option. And he's been doing that. He has been doing that. We see him down here, the Governor Abbott, down in Texas. Oil country, baby, which some people say, okay, why Texas? Well, first off, obviously, because it's the oil country in the United States. But however, there's a lot of Canadian-linked companies that also operate in Texas. And this is why it's important for him to go down, because there's actually a natural connection. And people are going to laugh because we say it all the time, but there actually is a natural connection, a natural economic connection between Alberta and Texas. And that's why he's down there. You have Governor Brett Abbott, the press office saying, Governor Abbott met with Canadian opposition leader Pierre Poilievre today at the governor's mansion. The governor and the opposition leader spoke about boosting trade ties, especially in regard to Canada and Texas's booming energy industries. And these are things that you want to see more of. And this is what the things that Poilievre's going to have to continue to do more of. I think this was good. This is a positive thing. And I think he's really going to have to keep doing a lot of this. It's gonna be a grind. I do not envy him and the schedule that he's going to have to take on, and all the traveling, the meetings, the people. It's gonna be a lot. It's gonna be insane for him. But he's gonna have to keep doing more stuff like this, and this is good. This is a good thing. Before we move on to the next topic, because the next topic is hilarious, let's look at the chat. What did the chat saying today, folks? Ramoth 9143 says Carney is so condescending whenever he speaks to anyone. You are a worker bee, quote. Shut up and do your job. I'm the king of the world. Yeah, that's he definitely gives those vibes, doesn't he? He definitely gives those vibes. Funny Crazy Production says NDP should have had their leader in first before the by-elections to see if they can gain more seats. This would be the best move for Canada, in my opinion. Yeah, fair enough. There's a thought there. Something to say. Bandit 249 saw it, says, call it the Kuwait cover-up. Sounds fishy. Dude, it is weird. And there's definitely some things that I think are definitely being covered up right now because they're politically inconvenient for the government for it to come out. And we're seeing this whole globalist strategy be spread across all the Western nations, which we'll get to here at the end of the show. But we're talking about France, UK, Canada, all mimicking the same talking points right now. It's really odd. Yeah, that's actually who is. I just saw that. Sorry, I missed it. I lost it. But someone said that, Poilievre's always working and Carney is not. And actually, it's actually literally true right now. Poilievre is working and Carney's on vacation at the moment. Carney's on vacation. But we move on to our next story of the hour. And it's Doug Ford, dude. So all this stuff with his cell phone history and messages and the green belt nonsense, this guy is a liberal through and through. I'll be honest with you about that, man. He is so corrupt. He's so corrupt. And what is what I find so funny with liberal supporters, those who support Carney versus, being anti-Ford, is they're just like, he's so corrupt. He's doing all these things. And they just ignore all the corruption from Mark Carney. Just completely ignore it. Don't care about it. But this is Doug Ford in a press conference, and it's just hilarious. If you've seen it, haven't seen it yet, watch this, man. I can't believe the excuse this man is making, but it is, quite frankly, hilarious to watch.
As you put it, communist Chinese have to do with you wanting to keep your cabinet documents secret?
That's a very small part of it. Cybersecurity is a massive issue. This legislation is 40 years old. This is about the broader public service. We're doing great work, research in universities. We have health records, and we have to keep an eye on our adversaries, be it China, North Korea, Russia. And if anyone thinks that they aren't on to us and everywhere else in the world, well, you're sadly mistaken.
So he starts off again. Why? He cites the reason why he can't release his phone number history and all of that and his records is because China's on to us. They're trying to get as much information on us as possible. Can't do it. Which I'm not gonna lie. Classic politics. What he's saying is not true. He is alluding to something that's a very real threat. However, to use it now to try and protect yourself from essentially being shown how corrupt you are is hilarious, to say the least. But we continue.
Are you saying that they're flogging
I'm sorry?
Along with the rest of us filing FOI reports?
No, I know you guys are obsessed of one part of it, but that's a small part of it, the cybersecurity. But the bigger issue is, I'm not pulling a rabbit out of our hat here. This is exactly what the federal government has done. And I find it very ironic that you haven't been up in Ottawa and asking. Hold on. Okay, hold on. Hold on, folks. Let me just finish before you attack me. Okay, so what I'm saying is we're duplicating what the federal government's doing and provinces right across the country. So again, 95%. You know all this. 95% will be FOIable, but cabinet confidentiality, personal conversations. That's not for a public to review of someone that may send me something that's very, very personal. Maybe you think you should air dirty laundry about someone's health records or other issues they're having with their family or in general, but that's confidential. I was sworn for secrecy on personal confidential information coming out of my Kinsted office or on a cell phone.
So I'll say this. What he's alluding to is partially true, where the federal government has been pushing that, and they have pushed it, where they are now, anything that is being relayed to the prime minister is going to be seen as like personal conversations or, as confidential. Anything that's kind of really, because it's seen as in the national interest. So the federal government has pushed that and it was accepted. And he's literally he's trying to do the same thing here to cover up again this issue with his phone records being linked to the Greenbelt nonsense and all of that. And again, it's all one big move to limit transparency. But it is hilarious. And quite frankly, I respect the move. I respect the game at this point. Like, hey, hold on a second. Mark Carney got to do it. Why can't I do it? It is funny to call it a double standard. However, it is true. And when I saw this and read or heard this, first off, I was like, man, Ford, you're so toast, brother. You could have taken a principled conservative stance. Look at everything he's just injecting into the system. He knows all this stuff is coming out. And look at everything he's been announcing. We want to live stream bail hearings now. We want to legalize pepper spray. Think about maybe doing castle law. Like, he's just throwing everything in the system that he knows people have wanted for so long. And he's just trying to inject the system to get the scent off of this whole scenario. That's all this is. It's all politics from Doug Ford. There's nothing genuine here. Some of it you'll look at like, okay, I guess I'll take that as a win. I'll take it when I can get it. But this is all one big game to him he's not a smart politician. He's got some decent people around him, but this is all a really, really stupid play on so many levels. And when I heard him say, well, Mark Carney's doing it, why can't I do it? It just made me think of this meme this was the perfect meme for it.
Corruption is not bad. Corruption is only bad if I'm not involved.
Yes.
But if I'm part of that corruption, I'll defend it.
Corruption is only bad if I'm not involved. But if I'm involved, then I defend it. This is Doug Ford to a T, and really any politician to a T at this point. Corruption's bad if I'm not involved in it. But if I am involved, well, you best know I'm the first person to defend you. That's really the first honest thing you'll ever hear at this point. That's the honesty point of the day right there, folks. So this is amazing. Love that. One of my favorite memes. It's amazing. Marcon Blanco says, my super chats are AI apparently, and being denied to what I try to say is not allowing free speech. Yeah, welcome to YouTube, baby. Marcon Blanco says, Mark Carney equals a Trojan horse. Yep, I agree with that. Sudaso Silver says, our ruling politicians and legacy media just prove being Canadian means taking no accountability and blame others for our own incompetence. Spot on there, sir. Spot on. That's exactly the name of the game. That's the name of a game in politics in general. But the problem is when we're at a point in our history where accountability is very important. Transparency is very important because the trust in institutions is completely evaporated. It is incumbent upon you to go to the next level of transparency and accountability. But the thing is, ain't no one doing it. Tim Houston, here in Nova Scotia, is another premier here. Conservative, progressive conservative, who put forward the idea of not having ministers go to question period anymore, but sending people to represent them to answer questions because they're so busy working. Like that's where we're at. Is it doesn't matter the party stripe. It doesn't matter the politics. It's just politics, baby. And I will say this though, is there, I also don't fall for political stripes either. It's either you are part of holding up the status quo of what's happening in Canada or you're not. And the people who don't want to uphold the status quo are the ones who get the most hated and are the ones who are, quite frankly, the ones who want the most transparency. Those who just want to keep the system as is are the ones who are constantly hiding things. So that's the Mark Carneys, that's the Doug Fords, that's the Tim Houstons of the world, that's the David Ebes. That's like, these are the people who want to uphold that old system are the ones you need to be the most suspicious of. And that's, Marcon Blanco says, get an IQ test done on Ford. Yeah, he's, Ford's something else, man. He's a different beast. And I really do wish. I'll say this, is that I miss his brother a lot. I do miss Rob Ford a lot. And people be like, whoa, what are you saying? He was by far one of my favorite Canadian politicians of all time. Why do I say that? Is because I really, really liked his stances. I liked his approach. I liked his viewpoint on issues. How he handled his office was a totally different issue. And he shot himself in the foot, both feet, 3 times each on multiple occasions. He had his own personal issues that just kind of came into politics. And at the same time, he knew he had such a huge target on his back. And he didn't do anything to try and stay above it. And he got caught. And then unfortunately, his tragic death on top of that. I wish he was a populist before people really knew what populism was here in this country. And I really appreciated him for it. I liked his policies. I liked what he brought to the council in Toronto. I was living in Toronto at the time. And I liked him a lot. But this was the thing that you heard in the media when we were in Toronto, is you heard this quite frequently, is that Doug Ford here and his brother Rob Ford, who was the mayor at the time, got into a lot of disagreements and heated arguments behind closed doors. And I remember hearing this media and hearing these reports, and it was always kind of confusing to me. I'm like, what could they possibly be? Oh, maybe they're so passionate about leading the city of Toronto in the best way possible. That's all they want to do. And then Doug Ford became premier, and I started seeing his policies. I was like, oh, I'm starting to see what they likely thought about. Because Rob Ford was a populist through and through, and Doug Ford is he's a shill. He's a corporate shill, and he's a less smart version of Mark Carney. Like that's what it is. And now I see why they had such a differing perspective on politics, and seeing what he's acted as premier is making a whole lot of sense now, if I'm being quite frank with you. So, but we move forward to our next story of the day. And that's this. So beware, folks, beware of this. French foreign minister suggests Canada could maybe at some point join the EU. This was reported yesterday afternoon. Happy St. Paddy's Day, folks. French Foreign Minister Jean-Noël Barrot is openly mulling the idea of Canada seeking membership in the European Union. Speaking at the Europe 2026 conference in Berlin today, Barrot said the European Union is attracting more candidate countries, such as Iceland, and suggested maybe Canada at some point will sign up. Barrot smiled while mentioning Canada as his comments generated some laughter from a panel moderator and applause from the audience. The idea of Canada joining the EU has been floated by some, such as Alberta politician Thomas Luxiak. while others reject the idea of adding Brussels to existing federal and provincial rules. Prime Minister Mark Carney dismissed the idea last June, saying he wants clearer and broader ties to the continent, but not as a member of the EU. So on and so forth. These types of comments are not by accident. I think this is like the third foreign official that's floated this idea. And Mark Carney said, on paper said, I outright say we shouldn't do this. But Mark Carney, this is what he wants. He wants to eventually, I imagine this would be the end goal. Or maybe, just maybe, and this is likely what's happening, is that this is the big ask. Join the EU. And there's going to be such a visceral response from Canadians saying, no. What? No. We are not. We don't want to. We already hate our government. We don't want another government that we're going to hate for that government. We don't want that. We don't want that. So they'll settle for some type of weirdly strategic tie that links the EU to us, that we still will be under their thumb to some degree. I imagine that will probably end up being, they'll try to end up doing. And this is why I reject these articles, and I call them out immediately when I see them, because it's completely and utterly trying to put plant the seed, condition the Canadian people that they continue to sell their country out to all these foreign interests, and they being convinced that that's the way to go. And I reject this notion. I reject these stupid articles and the statements that are made about it. No, I'm very consistent on this. I do not care to join the United States. I do not care for Canada to be linked to China. I do not care for Canada to be linked to the EU. I want to be an autonomous nation, a nation that stays independent and takes care of its own government, kicks all the corruption out, and takes care of business. That's what I want. In my perfect world, that's what I want, which is crazy to think that's the perfect world, but that's what I want. That's why I do this show. That's why I talk about these issues, because I want the Mark Carneys of the world gone. I want the corrupt liberals like Sean Fraser out. I want to take care of business so we can take care of our nation, take care of our borders, take care of our economy, and so that we can actually be a nation that stands on our own. Because the way that Mark Carney is going, we will 100% at some point, if this continues to go the way it's going, we won't be a nation that can stand on its own. We will have to rely on the crutch of a China. We will have to rely on the crutch of an EU. We will have to rely on the crutch of the United States of America if we don't get our crap together. And that's why I hate articles like this, trying to condition the people saying, it might be a good idea. No. Done. Screw that. I'm out. Don't want any part of it. Don't want any part of it. Let's go to some super chats here, folks. Carlos Delgado says, heck no, I prefer to be USA 51st state. It's one of those, if you're given three crappy decisions here, if you want to join China or you want to join EU, if you want to join the United States, which one would you choose? I could see why people would say, well, the US, because they're the most aligned with us ideologically. Yes. If you're given those three stupid, ridiculous options, then yes, obviously joining the US would make more sense. But I'm very much more in the, hey, let's pick the fourth option here and take care of ourselves and be a serious country so that we can remain a country. That's what I want. The Happy Wanderer 95 says, stellar show today, man. Happy Wednesday. Thanks, dude. Thank you. Always trying to stay happy and try to stay positive as we deal with this nonsense. Scotty War says, funny. Ontarians still think Ford is conservative. Right. That is hilarious. It is hilarious. So we move on, though, to the next story here. We move on to some more global politics of what's happening with Iran, the relationship with NATO, and Trump. So we'll play the first minute here of Keir Starmer talking about the UK stance on everything that's happening with Iran.
At the beginning of this conflict, I made it really clear that we wouldn't join the offensive strikes that the US and Israel were carrying out on Iran. We got about 300,000 British nationals in the Gulf region, and it's important that we protect them and our Gulf allies. So we have got the RAF in particular flying aeroplanes across the region. They're actually intercepting strikes to stop them hitting people and buildings. So that's defensive action. But we're not joining the war. We are allowing the US to use our bases, but again for defensive, collective self-defense to take out basically the ability of Iran to put missiles into the air that are going or may go to attack our Gulf allies and our people in the Gulf. So not going to war, simply taking necessary defensive action to protect British lives and British interests.
So you hear there, Keir Starmer being very clear. We're not taking an offensive posture. We're going to be taking a defensive posture. We don't want to engage in the war. We don't want to be a part of it. Have no interest in it. But we will have to defend our assets in the region. Very similar stance that Mark Carney has, I think we have settled on. I think Mark Carney settled on a stance on this issue. I think he's managed to talk to his globalist friends, figured out what they want to do, and say, okay, this is the messaging. This is what we're going to do. That's what's concerning about all this for me, if I'm being honest. Is we, in typical politics, you'd be like, all right, if messaging's out of whack with the governing party, it's just clearly that they need to have a caucus meeting, get together, figure out what their messaging is, and push that out. But the more I'm seeing what's happening across different countries at the moment, it's becoming increasingly clear that, and we've heard this from the likes of the Liberal Party, is that Mark Carney doesn't really talk to his party that much. His ups and downs and what he wanted to do, with part of it, his flip-flopping was part of it was him being abroad and not really having an ear to the ground with what's happening here in Canada. So he kept hearing that people were upset every time he made a move. But I think a part of it as well, he was unsure because he hadn't had a chance to talk to this group here. Talk about what's our plan going to be? What's our messaging going to be? Middle powers unite. What's our messaging going to be? And it took some time to finally get everyone on that Zoom call. They eventually did. We have the likes of Macron saying something very similar in a 1-minute statement.
Nombre des pays de la région. Je le redis ici, la France n'a pas choisi cette guerre. Nous ne prenons pas part et nous avons une position purement défensive en protection de nos ressortissants, en soutien de nos alliés. Nos objectifs sont clairs. Ils sont définis depuis le premier jour, ils n'ont pas changé. Le premier, c'est de protéger nos ressortissants.
So, it's in the French, there's no translation, there's subtitles on the screen of what he's saying. But he's saying the same thing. This is not our war. We're not going to engage. We're not taking an offensive posture. We're going to take a defensive posture. And that's the focus. But we're all saying the same thing right now. Him, Carney, Keir Starmer. But it is fascinating. And maybe this is part of the NATO targets. I don't know. But Macron is posting with all three of them coming out saying we're not supporting Trump on this. And then turning around and doing Trump-style ads is weird. Canada started doing those too. Canada started doing those. But Macron posted one today, or yesterday, I believe it was. Let's see what the title of this was. No, that was today. This morning, he posted this. France is wild. Again, an English video. This is pure propaganda. But puts out a Trump-style video for the French military. Watch this. And I'll say this. If you're watching this on replay, you're likely going to have to watch this on mute because YouTube's going to strip out the audio. But those who are watching live are going to enjoy just the juicy, tasty audio of this. 30 seconds. Here you go. Look at France. We're awesome. We're tough. Yeah. So weird, isn't it? We hate Trump. We're not going to support Trump, but we're going to do all of the same things that the White House videos are putting out right now. Like, it's just crazy. So, I don't know. As I said, maybe it's part of their 5% NATO targets issues. I don't know. But this is where the confusion and questions people have is you're saying all these things, but what are you actually doing? What are you actually doing? What is your real stance on this? How much of this is performative versus what you actually need to do and want to do? Yeah, it's a question that people have. because people are very confused about what's happening with the war in Iran. And, there's still overwhelming support for people who voted in the Republican base for the war in Iran, conservatives here in Canada as well. And yeah, you had Joe Kent yesterday, the head of the counterintelligence agency in the United States, resigned, saying, it's been made clear to me that Israel's the one who dragged us into this. This had nothing to do with America. Iran never posed a direct threat to America. This is not an issue. I don't know why we did this. And so when you see that on the headline, you're just like, whoa, hey, well, he's really high up there. He knows what's going on. He would have been in the rooms to have these discussions. So if he's coming out and saying Israel did this, then maybe there's something to be said about it. But then you look into it. Then you find out, you look at different reports that have come out over the past couple of months and realizing Joe Kent's been iced out of conversations for quite some time. He was not in the inner circle. He wasn't privy to the intel that they were talking about in those rooms because they were worried about him leaking it. They were worried about him being leaked for quite some time. They were upset about it. So they left him out of a lot of conversations. And that adds a different wrinkle to all that, isn't it? So when you first hear, Israel, it's like, maybe this whole Israel thing there may be something happening there. And then you turn out, maybe it's more of a personal issue than it being an actual issue of who's bringing the U.S. into this, or is this the U.S. decision? Because Joe Kent's also the same person who said Iran was trying to kill President Trump in 2024. Now they're not a threat. Could it be both? Maybe. But it seems to be a weird round U-turn to make on that issue. And then he had Tulsi Gabbard, who worked under Joe Kent. And they're two individuals who are very much in line of no forever wars, no regime change wars. Tulsi Gabbard was 100% on record saying that. And she worked under Joe Kent. And she made a very diplomatic statement on it, saying, you know what, Donald Trump made a decision on the intel he was given, and he decided and concluded that Iran posed a threat. And she left at that. But today, Tulsi Gabbard is going to appear and testify before the Senate Intelligence Committee today to talk about all of this. So that will be fun, interesting to watch. I'll be fascinated to see what comes of that. But there's a lot of finger pointing of what's going on, not really knowing what's happening. So we'll see where it goes. And however, I think overall, it's from a geopolitical perspective, I get it. Like, I get the war. I do support that aspect of it. Is if this is truly to get in there to destabilize China and cut China off, I'm on board, folks. I'm on board. If it was simply to do a regime change because it needed to satisfy the military-industrial complex, I'm not on board with that. Not a fan. So that's kind of where I'm at. It's still wait and see for me. And we'll see where this all goes. But if it is what I think this is, I support it. But if it's just simply to satiate the bloodlust of the military-industrial complex, then I hate this completely. So that's kind of where I'm stuck. So this is where I think the thing is where it's both right and wrong. Where people are saying Iran didn't pose an actual threat to us. You're hearing that a lot coming up. That's really coming out. And that could be true. And right now, I don't believe Iran posed a direct threat to the U.S. in terms of being able to reach ground. Aside from, having all of their cells, their sleeper cells here, or in the U.S. and in Canada. But it more so had to do with taking care of Iran and cutting off oil to China. Like, when you look at all the moves that are being made by Trump, we've talked about this on the show ad nauseum at this point, it all coincides with cutting off China and cutting off their realm of influence. And Iran was a big part of that. That's how I see this going down, and that's how I view it. But if it ends up just being a narrow-sided operation, then I have a different perspective on that. But here we are. So we'll continue on to finish off the show with some last minute super chats. Marcon Blanco says, adopting the acquis commentaire, transposing the entire body of the EU law, over 100,000 pages of rules, into one national legislation. Food Journey dropping $2.79 on the show. Thank you so much. Scotty War saying, allowed too many Islamists vote pandering. Fair enough. Yeah, a lot of radical Islamists have arrived from Iran, and there's questions that should be asked about that for sure. Bueno Kitty says, is this a sign? Mark told King Charles he lost his Order of the Canada pin on the airport tarmac. Same country Mark ran his jet fuel grift. Karma coming, or will Mark just get a new pin with Xi's face on it? I think it's the latter, Bueno Kitty. I think it will be a pen with Xi's face on it. Oh my gosh. Marcon Blanco says, Josh, why isn't your subscription base growing? A couple different things, actually, if you really want to know the answer to that, is it's happening across creators across YouTube right now. Some more than others. It's happening a lot in the political space in general. As YouTube back in February, I believe it was, completely shifted out and changed out their algorithm. And so now they're kind of going after and highlighting different types of content than they did before. And so the thing with YouTube is it's not like they have a meeting with creators saying, hey, this is what we're doing, this is what we're moving into, adapt accordingly. There's a part of that, but there's a lot of it that they just kind of do things in a black box, and you kind of have to try different things. And that's what this is right now. Is if you remember when we first started our live streams before the algorithm shift, we were averaging 4,000, 4,500 concurrent viewers on this live stream every morning. After the switch happened, we were lucky to get 2,000, 2,500. And that's kind of where things are at. And it's more so me as a creator needing to figure out what they're doing, because a lot of my views are capping out at specific view counts at this point. I'll be lucky, like a good day, a really good day now is getting 80 to 90,000 views on a video, when in the past that was just average. I was typically going up closer to 120, 130,000 views on a video. Now I'm lucky to maybe get 70. So it's literally cut in half on all metrics. It's partially because of the algorithm shift, but as well as me needing to figure out what they're looking for and how to adapt to that. So that's the reality. That's the reason why the subscription base is not growing as fast as it once did, folks. Great question, though. Very good question. And I'll put it out to the people who are here. I'm seeing this a lot, is a lot of people are finding the show right now because they look up the show, because they don't get a notification that the live stream has started. That's, again, part of this whole algorithm change, is YouTube picks and chooses who and when gets a notification. So sometimes they'll give it to you, sometimes they don't. It's just all this weird thing they're doing. And that's just what we're adapting to at this point. And so some people still get the notification. A lot of people don't anymore. And that's on me to try to figure that out and why that's happening. But yeah, that's what's going on. Lazarus 8447 says, Carney gets his majority and you and Reg have said Canadians are resilient, too resilient. How long would it be until Lib MPs get harassed to the point where they leave the party? Well, that's the issue, isn't it? Is I think Carney gets his majority and they start bringing all these censorship laws, you will start seeing some pretty nasty side effects from all of that. Is people are just angry online and just saying stupid stuff online. And then when you feel like you take that away from them, MPs start getting visits. Like that's how this all goes. COVID is the perfect example of that. Is you kept people shut up in their homes. You said what they could and couldn't talk about. You alienated them from their friends and their relatives. You told them what they're thinking is crazy, that they're racist, misogynistic, if they ever espoused any of the views that were against the narrative at the time, the accepted narrative at the time. And then you tried to make sure truckers got vaccinated, and you said they would lose their jobs if they didn't get vaccinated. At some point, people get left with no choice but to show up at Parliament Hill and be like, what are we doing here? That's what happened to the convoy. And of course, Justin Trudeau was a coward and said, I got COVID. I have to go to BC now. But that's what happens, man, is you start shutting down any element or what's the word I'm looking for? Or any type of outlet people have, well, then something else happens. And that's the goal. And the thing is, and any government needs to learn this, it's in history. The moment that the government tries to take a tighter grip on the people, the more people they lose. So the harder they squeeze, the worse it's going to get for them. And that's what they're doing. And it will get worse for them. You tried to stamp out media that had a different view. So you bought up all the media, or should I just say, actually, let's use a more kind term. You try to incentivize the media by giving them money so that you could own the narrative. Then shows like this start popping up all over the place and start speaking against it. Now you're going to try and squeeze us more. But the thing is, it's going to force more people to be in further opposition to you. So the more you squeeze, the worse it's going to get for you. And that's my message to the government and what they continue to do. If they just chill out, they might actually get more of their agenda done. But they just so badly want to squash dissent, and it's going to have a visceral impact for sure. So that's what I see happening. And so I love the chat right now. A lot of people feeling different perspectives of what's happening with Iran. We got George Sem saying Joe Kent is 10 times the man Trump is. There's people saying, no, I appreciate what Trump is doing, and I want to see what's happening with Iran more and more. There's lots going on. It's a lot of people have different perspectives on this, and I like the debate on this. This is good. Bandit249 Saw says it's already happening to Canada. Cops showed up to a grandma's home to talk to her about a tweet she posted. Okay. I've been waiting for this to come out. Let's finish off on this. I got that video sent to me a couple nights ago. It was before any of it went viral. It immediately kind of set off alarm bells for me. And I was looking at the details, and we didn't know what she was posting. But I just remember the cops saying that there was threats being made. And before ever seeing anything she said, and I still will reserve judgment until we see what is said, but what I saw happen there, that visit, is not out of the realm of what's happened as a precedent that's been set over decades at this point. It's just changed a little bit because of the internet, but there's nothing that was out of the ordinary from what I saw there. The reason why I'm pushing back on this is because I want us to push back on real information. Like when these bills come in, those visits will happen. Don't get me wrong. Those will happen, but let's identify them properly. Because what that woman was going through is they're addressing threats that she had made. And if those were indeed threats, then we need to talk about them. But that's a typical move. RCMP is scanning social media, is scanning the internet for threats being made to political officials. If they deem one as being serious, then they contact the local law enforcement and they go and give them a knock, being like, hey, we're seeing this stuff, chill out, or if it does increase, we will have to take further action because we don't know if you're being serious or not and wanting to kill an official. That is what that was. That didn't have to do more so with censorship laws, which those are coming. But what I saw there was a very, very clear, that's been a precedent for quite some time. And however, as I said, I reserve judgment on it until I see what was actually posted. Because if it was just, I hate Mark Carney and they deemed that as a threat, then that's when I see it as, okay, now you're trying to exaggerate laws to fulfill your censorship agenda. That's a different issue. But if it really was this woman was threatening and posting threats, then yeah, that's typical behavior from our law enforcement. That's just kind of how that goes. So that's kind of where I stand on that. So, but that's why I didn't want to jump on that. I didn't want to talk about it because there are very real censorship laws that are coming down the pipes that I want to address when cops show up on people's doorsteps. When those laws come down, that's my concern, and that's what I want to address. Because if you pipe up too much on an issue like that, then it gives the government an out to be like, well, these people are just, can't listen to them. They're all crazy. It was just a classic law enforcement move we had to make and just secure the safety of the prime minister, this, that, the other. And then they just write you off and just, then when something actually happens, because it's like the boy who cried wolf, when something actually happens, well, then no one believes you. That's why I'm a little more protective on this one. I'm being very cautious because I want to be cautious of what we sound the alarm on and make sure it's for real so that we don't get people tuning us out. That's more so where I'm standing on that. Claire Robitaille says, Joe Kent will be on the Tucker Carlson show tonight to talk about his resignation. I would love to hear it. I would love to hear it. 787 NGXCA in the general chat says, but let's not tell people it's someone in a dress shooting kids. Ooh. Oh, yep. Don't want to say that one out too loud. Gee, wild. Well, we've definitely gone overtime. Y'all are fantastic. I think this has been a good show, good debate in the chat. People bring up some great points. I love it. I love the back and forth that we get to have here, folks. I love that we don't have to agree on everything and that we can talk about some more sensitive issues. I think it's important because that's how you build a strong nation and people who want to see a better country moving forward. It is absolutely fantastic. So, sorry, I'm just, again, the chat's catching my eye before I leave out here. But regardless of what you guys are doing, whether you are driving that dump truck through the backwoods of Canada, or you're sitting at home eating breakfast, or you're at work, whatever it is you're doing, wherever you are, I love you. Oh, one super chat came in last minute. Lazarus8447 says, remember, polling in mainstream media is all paid for by the Liberal Party. Believe nothing. That is something to keep an eye on. There is some significant funding going into those pollsters. We'll catch that later. Have a good one. I'm out.